All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about something that so many people deal with, iron supplements. And if you've ever felt like your pills just weren't working, or maybe the side effects were just way too much, you are definitely in the right place. We are going to break down the science so you can make your routines smarter, with a real focus on boosting your ferritin levels, which are your body's long-term iron stores.
So, let's just start with a really direct question. Are you taking your iron supplement the wrong way? And honestly, it's a huge possibility. A lot of the common advice about when and how to take iron, well, it isn't always based on the latest science. Turns out, a few tiny tweaks to your routine can make a world of difference in how much iron your body actually uses.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to cover the basics. What on earth is ferritin anyway? Then, we'll get into the iron absorption puzzle. It's a tricky one. After that, we'll get super practical and figure out how to optimize your routine. And finally, we'll find that sweet spot between the dose you need and, actually feeling good.
All right, first things first, we have to build a solid foundation. And understanding the difference between just iron and ferritin is really the key that unlocks everything else we're going to talk about. So what's the big problem we're trying to solve here? It's often iron deficiency anemia, or IDA. And what it really boils down to is this. When you lack iron, your body just can't make enough healthy red blood cells. And since those are the cells carrying oxygen all over your body, not having enough of them is exactly why you can end up feeling so tired and weak.
Now, this is maybe the most important point, so listen up. When we talk about fixing an iron deficiency, we're not just talking about the iron that's floating around in your blood at any given moment. We're talking about ferritin. Think of ferritin as your body's iron bank account. It's the protein that actually stores iron for you to use later. So the real goal, the end game of taking a supplement, isn't just a temporary bump. It's to raise your ferritin and rebuild that bank account.
Okay, so if the goal is just to fill up that iron bank account, why is it so darn hard? Well, that brings us to what I like to call the iron absorption puzzle. Why swallowing a pill doesn't automatically mean you get the benefit.
To really get this, you need to know about a hormone called hepcidin. You can think of it as your body's own personal iron gatekeeper. When your hepcidin levels are high, it basically shouts at your intestines to stop absorbing so much iron. It just slams the gate shut. And here's the crazy part. What raises hepcidin? Taking an iron supplement. This creates this wild biological feedback loop that we have to learn how to outsmart.
And on top of that, it's like there's this war going on inside your gut every time you take your supplement. On one side, you've got the good guys, the enhancers, like vitamin C. They help you absorb more. But on the other side, you've got the inhibitors, things like the polyphenols in your morning coffee or tea, phytates in grains, and even calcium, and they are actively trying to block that iron from getting in.
So, with all that going on, how do we actually win this battle? How do we get the iron where it needs to go? That brings us to the most important part of this explainer, actually optimizing your routine. We're going to use science to answer all the big questions.
Okay, first big question, one everyone wants to know. Timing. When is the absolute, hands-down, best time to take your iron supplement to get the most bang for your buck and really get that ferritin up?
And get this, data from a 2023 study by Siebenthal and colleagues is pretty shocking. They found that iron absorption in the afternoon was a whopping 37% lower than in the morning. And why? You guessed it, it's because of that gatekeeper hormone, hepcidin. Its levels naturally go up throughout the day. So the takeaway here is crystal clear. Morning is your golden window of opportunity.
Okay, so morning it is. But what about how often? The old way of thinking was to just hammer your system with iron multiple times a day to get those levels up fast. But is more always better?
Well, this data from a huge 2024 study by Patel and his team pretty much spells it out for us. Now, yeah, if you look at the 90-day hemoglobin increase, taking multiple doses a day did give the fastest results, but just look at how well the other strategies worked. Once a day, and even taking it every other day, still led to really significant improvements. This is huge, because it means if you struggle with side effects, a less frequent schedule is still a totally viable way to rebuild your iron stores.
All right, let's talk about the one piece of advice literally everyone's heard. You have to take your iron with vitamin C, right? But do you really? Let's see what the science actually says. And this is where things get really interesting, because science isn't always black and white. On one hand, that Siebenthal study found that a little vitamin C, just 80 milligrams, boosted the immediate absorption from a single pill by 30%. That's a clear win. But A big clinical trial from 2020 looked at the long-term picture, the actual improvement in hemoglobin, and they found that iron supplements all by themselves were just as effective as taking iron with vitamin C. So what's the takeaway? Vitamin C might give you a boost in the moment, but it may not be essential for hitting your long-term goals.
So if vitamin C isn't the holy grail we thought it was, what's the kryptonite? What do we absolutely need to avoid? Well, that same study gave us a pretty dramatic answer. Taking your iron supplement with coffee, I mean, look at this. It just slashed absorption by 54%. And taking it with a normal breakfast that also included coffee, that dropped it by 66%. This is really powerful proof that taking your iron on a completely empty stomach, way before that first cup of coffee, is the way to go.
And that leads us perfectly to the final piece of our puzzle, the balance between the dose, its effectiveness, and your comfort. Because let's be real for a second, if a supplement makes you feel absolutely miserable, you're just not going to take it. We have to find that sweet spot.
I mean, just look at the numbers from this study by Ramon and colleagues. The link is crystal clear. At a really low dose, 15 milligrams a day, only about 13% of people felt nauseous. But jump up to 150 milligrams, and that number skyrockets to 67%. And you see the same exact trend for other issues. Higher doses definitely come at a cost to your comfort.
But okay, this might just be the most mind-blowing slide of the whole explainer. That same study then looked at the thing we actually care about, the increase in ferritin. And what did they find? After 60 days, the ferritin increase was practically identical across all 3 doses. You heard that right. The 15 milligram dose, the one with way fewer side effects, was just as good at rebuilding those iron stores as the huge 150 milligram dose. This is a total game changer. It means you might not have to suffer through those awful high-dose side effects to get the results you need.
All right, so let's wrap all this up. What have we learned? Here's your simple 4-step strategy, all based on the evidence. Number 1, morning is best. Take your supplement then, when absorption is at its peak. Number 2, go solo. Take it on an empty stomach and wait at least an hour before breakfast or coffee. 3, remember that less can be more. A lower dose might give you the exact same ferritin gains with a lot more comfort. And number 4, consistency over confusion. The best plan is the one that works and that you can actually stick with, whether that's every day or every other day.
See, the whole goal here is to work smarter, not harder, by letting the science guide your routine. The evidence is pretty clear that a lower dose, morning-only, empty stomach approach can be incredibly effective for rebuilding those all-important ferritin stores without all the discomfort. So now that you have the evidence, how will you build your iron strategy? Thanks for joining us.